You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Hello and welcome everybody to the show before the show, the official podcast of minor league baseball. I am Sam Dykstra, not Tyler Mon. Tyler is currently in Japan, coming off a whirlwind world tour, essentially, calling Premier 12 games both in Taiwan and in Japan. He was on the call for when Chinese Taipei upset Japan in the Premier 12 tournament. Really cool game there. D-backs prospect Yu-Min Lin getting the start for Chinese Taipei in the Tokyo Dome. So a really cool setting for that to happen. It's fun to see upsets like that. Go check out Tyler's page on Blue Sky. You can see a bunch of his highlights. It seemed like a crazy call to bring that action both to people here in the United States and across the world. So Tyler's taking some much needed time off after that. Him and his wife Beth are currently still in Tokyo, but we know a lot of people will be traveling this week for Thanksgiving, so we wanted to provide you with some episode of the show before the show. Plus, we've been off for long enough. I just got back from vacation myself for 2 weeks, and I am joined, as always, by Benjamin Hill. Ben, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, we didn't do this podcast each of the last 2 weeks because you had better things to do. And now we have Tyler still in Asia. So it's been tough to get the full gang together, but I'm glad at least we get to do a Ben and Sam only edition without Tyler to lead us into Thanksgiving. And then maybe we'll be back to full strength at least a couple times in December.
Hopefully.
And certainly full strength in the next year, which is 2025.
Yeah. I mean, we wanted to get this out there because we know a lot of people are going to be hitting the road or hitting the skies or, maybe traveling by boat. Who knows?
Hopefully not hitting anything else.
Yeah. Hitting the water, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, a lot of people will be traveling this week. So we wanted to give you guys some sort of travel companion. And even though the season is over for minor league baseball, the season is over for the Arizona Fall League. There's still some winter league stuff happening, but we're pretty much all in off-season mode now. There's still news aplenty across the minor league landscape because we're sitting here recording on November 26th, which means Logovember is coming to a close here. And it's been a strong one, Ben. I mean, we have a lot to kind of recap from our last show in terms of new identities, both actual identities, some refreshes, some identities that won't be coming out until 2026, some also alternate stuff as well. So kind of take us through what news has happened in the last 3 weeks or so in terms of brands and identities across the minor league landscape.
Yeah, and this is really, I'm probably forgetting some stuff within the last 3 weeks, just because so much happened in the last week. Was the peak of it. I had 3 stories come out in the last 5 days or so, and then a few other stories on those 3 stories. And the timing is not coincidental. Black Friday is Friday, this coming Friday. Official start of the holiday shopping season. So teams that are introducing new logos, that comes with corresponding new merchandise. So, they want to have it out in time to be wrapped up under the tree or however, wherever you put presents.
In stockings, handed to each other, personal interaction.
Yeah, or whatever your cultural traditions may be. Regardless, they wanted to get it out, and out they have. So the biggest one, because this is a whole new team, and it's not coming until 2026, but the logos and the team name are out now. Coming 2026, Wilson, North Carolina, the Wilson Warbirds. A little tricky to say, I found it. Wilson Warbirds. The Warbirds, I feel bad in advance for the broadcaster. I'm sure he or she will get used to it, but the Warbirds. It's kind of a tricky one to say quickly. But that team will be the single A Brewers affiliate, replacing the Carolina Mudcats, who are going to play their final season in 2025 in Zebulon, North Carolina, at Five County Stadium. And I hope to visit there in 2025, pay my respects to that ballpark before the team leaves. So one more season of the Carolina Mudcats, and then they will move east. Yeah, not very far, about 20, 25 miles to Wilson, which is a, fairly small, it's called a city, but it's a small city. Not a city that I'm too familiar with, although I have been there twice, because on previous road trips, I stopped at Fleming Stadium, a historic old ballpark in Wilson that is still home to the Tobs, a Coastal Plains League summer collegiate team that has been playing for, I think, over 25 years in that stadium. And Tobs is short for tobacconists, and that ballpark is attached to the North Carolina Baseball History Museum, which is a fun stop. So Wilson has plenty of baseball history. They actually did have a Carolina League team in as recently as, I believe, the late 60s. That team was called the Tobs as well. But it's been decades, over 50 years, since Wilson had affiliated minor league baseball, and that will come in a new ballpark opening in 2026 to host the Wilson Warbirds. And so this name, Warbirds, you can probably imagine what the logo looks like. It is a warbird, I guess, as you imagine, a pilot, a red-tailed hawk pilot. But of course, there's a story behind this. A warbird is a term for a retired military aircraft that has been restored, usually owned, by civilians at this point, and they're still in the skies. So that is officially what a warbird is, and a lot of this is a reference to whirligigs. I learned all this recently, and whirligigs were wind-powered sculptures created by a guy who lived in Wilson or near Wilson. Was it Vollis Simpson? Vollis, I believe. Not a first name I'm familiar with. Vollis Simpson. He's a World War II veteran, and he built his first whirligig to power a washing machine while he was stationed in Saipan during World War II. He built his first whirligig out of the parts of a B-29 bomber. And then he went on, once he got home and he was out of the military, to create these whirligig sculptures. And Whirligig Park is going to be visible from the Warbirds ballpark. And that park is a source of pride in Wilson. These big, idiosyncratic, very, strange looking, huge, 30, 40 feet tall, wind-powered sculptures called whirligigs. And I think because Vollis Simpson's, his first whirligig was built out of necessity out of the parts of a B-29 bomber. That aviation history, World War II history, ties into the Warbirds name and is in part a tribute to Vollis Simpson, an outsider, self-taught, unique artist who created whirligigs that you can now see outside of this new ballpark in Wilson. So, quite a lot going on here. But the unveiling for this was held at the the Industrial Air Center, which was originally developed as a World War II Naval Aviator Training Center, where naval airmen trained to fly in World War II. So that space is still used for aviation today. That's where they did the unveiling of the team name. So there is that aviation history in the area. And combine that with Vollis Simpson and the whirligigs, and you have these logos designed by Rev Pop, a Scott Starr, the founder of Rev Pop, a Milwaukee-based design studio. And this team is owned by the Brewers, too. So there aren't too many minor league teams left that are owned by the parent club, but the Wilson Warbirds / Carolina Mudcats in 2025 are owned by the Brewers. So this rebrand was handled, the specifics of it were handled within the Milwaukee Brewers front office, and they worked with this Milwaukee-based design studio, and a real classic look. I mean, it's not goofy, your trash pandas type of look. Pinstriped white jerseys with the black pinstripes, red sleeve piping, but a very classic look. This hawk, this World War II hawk, is a serious looking fellow, and he's donned in these throwback World War II aviation garb. So it's more of a classic aesthetic. I believe the team called it a timeless aesthetic, as opposed to something that screams, wow, this is very, trash pandas, iron pigs, all the teams, blue wahoos. It speaks more to to a classic sort of look.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that the Brewers are the owners of the Carolina Mudcats, soon to be Wilson Warbirds, because I would have thought there would have been some temptation to do something Brewers themed for this. I mean, it's not like, if the Brewers owned the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, at least they're adjacent. Appleton's not far from Milwaukee. They're obviously in the same state. This is a team that owns a minor league team in a completely different state, in a completely different time zone, that could just be like, hey, we're going to try to make Brewers fans out of you guys and make this, like name it the Crew or something.
Right.
Something that has specific ties to the parent club. In this case, they were just like, no, what is special to you in this area? And how can we build that out? And it is classic. It isn't out there. Maybe that's the parent club getting involved somehow. This isn't, like you said, with the Trash Pandas, or I think about like Staten Island, with the Pizza Rats, and how the Yankees kind of brought that in and reeled that in. This isn't that. But I think this has a chance to become instantly iconic.
Yeah, I mean, it's been well received so far, but there is, of course, a large caveat with a lot of the people reacting to it right now, and understandably so, is that just the mere existence of the Wilson Warbirds means the non-existence of the Carolina Mudcats, and that is a beloved minor league logo and team name, because it comes from an era in which most teams were named after their parent clubs. So a team with this catfish logo was something really unique when they first debuted, over 30 years ago, close to 35 years ago, I believe. That team actually started in Columbus, Georgia, before moving to Zebulon, North Carolina, and keeping the name. But that logo went viral, the equivalent of viral pre-internet. It sold a ton. The team would market or place advertisements in USA Today, Sports Weekly, Baseball Weekly, Sporting News, in sports publications, and they got a ton of mail order for these Mudcats hats. So it's a name that has resonated far beyond the confines of North Carolina, and is definitely looked upon as a classic logo. And I think it's a very good bet that while the Mudcats will be gone in 2026, that once the Warbirds identity is established a little bit in Wilson, I think it's a pretty good bet that we'll see some Mudcats throwback nights and everything. And again, these two locales, this relocation is really not much more than the Tennessee Smokies in Sevierville relocating to Knoxville. A lot of the same fans who go to Mudcats games are from the same area within the same market as fans in who are going to Warbirds games. So it's going to be a huge overlap of the fan base. And there's obviously people who are in Wilson specifically who are so excited for the Warbirds, but a lot of people who are like, well, I'm happy for this new ballpark, but I'm going to miss the Mudcats, and that usual hello, goodbye type of feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as you said a few times, this isn't coming out until 2026. So this is not going to be the last time we'll talk about the Warbirds, and in preparation for them to come out, because we still have, like you said earlier, all of 2025 to say goodbye to the Mudcats. So they aren't going anywhere just yet. This is softening the ground. Kind of reminds me of the Trash Pandas a few years ago, that we knew that identity was coming out a year before it actually got to debut.
You're right. Yeah, that was about the same timeline, about a year, close to a year and a half out, that you knew this team was coming, while going also through the farewell season of a team in a different locale.
Yeah. And we've seen how successful that was. I mean, Trash Pandas is so far out there, and that plays a lot into it, but they did a really good job on that rollout. And now Wilson will have the same opportunity. So let's keep it rolling now with some of the other, not brand new teams that are coming out, but some of the other refreshes.
Yeah, well, there will continue to be a team in Bowie, Maryland that plays in the AA Eastern League that is an affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles. And that team will continue to be named the Bay Sox, but that team is no longer the Bowie Bay Sox. They are the Chesapeake Bay Sox. Of course, the Bay in the Bay Sox name always represented or referred to the Chesapeake Bay. But now it's a lot more explicit. They're just called the Chesapeake Bay Sox.
And we should say it's Bay Sox, still one word.
Yes.
It's not Chesapeake Bay space Sox. The place name is Chesapeake.
Yes.
And the team name is Bay Sox. No capital S, lowercase s, capital B.
Yeah, same team name that this organization has had since 1993. They actually didn't play in Bowie until 1994 because they played their first season in Memorial Stadium in Baltimore because their ballpark wasn't ready. That's neither here nor there, but this is over 30 years of the Bay Sox name. That will continue. But there's some new logos. and the Chesapeake name. And, I think the impetus for this is just to speak to a broader region. Bowie is a fairly sizable small city in a very populated area there in Maryland, but Bowie doesn't necessarily give you an immediate grasp of place the way Chesapeake Bay does. I mean, just in terms of people's familiarity with Bowie, Maryland specifically. So now it's the Chesapeake Bay Sox. I mean, how much of that territory they're laying claim to? I mean, I'm sure they want to have fans from as far over as possible. But, the Chesapeake Bay region encompasses parts of 6 states and Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. So it's a huge geographical area. But the Chesapeake Bay is only about 20 miles from Bowie, and they're very much part of the region. And, the primary logo features a crab that the team describes as audacious. He's an audacious crab. And, some word marks and alternate logos with rippling waves beneath the words or beneath the letter B. So it's a pretty solid look, done by, I believe, Yount Design in Baltimore. Rev Pop for the Wilson
from Milwaukee and
Yount Design in Baltimore, 2 companies that we're not all that familiar with in the minor league landscape. And the Bay Sox they're not under new ownership, but Attain Sports, headed up by a guy named Greg Baroni. They purchased the team in 2022. So it's also, this name change is kind of unique or specific to this change in ownership and the ownership group, wanting to go a slightly different direction with the name. And so hopefully the entire Chesapeake Bay region, if they didn't know, now they know. They have a team that represents them, the formerly Bowie Bay Sox, but they'll still play in Prince George's Stadium. They'll still be right there in Bowie, still a AA affiliate of the Orioles. So obviously a lot more staying the same as is different, but Chesapeake Bay now.
Yeah, I just love the idea of it representing the larger region, as you said, and obviously this isn't the only team in the O system that does this. Delmarva isn't speaking to a specific place; it's speaking to a peninsula. And the idea, we've talked about this tons of times over the years, of the Orioles have maybe the most centered farm system of anybody in baseball. Probably do.
They definitely do.
Yeah, you think about going from Delmarva at single A to Aberdeen in high A, which you've driven past if you've ever taken 95 between New York City and Washington, D.C. Chesapeake now, like you go from Delmarva to Aberdeen to Chesapeake to Norfolk. Yeah, it's just the tourism of that whole region must just be elated. The tourism boards. It's just like, yeah, these are all the hot spots.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an entire system, and they are number one when it comes to a clustered farm system. Phillies are pretty good, but they have the Clearwater Threshers in Florida. Indians are sorry about that. Cleveland Guardians, also very clustered, but they do have a team in Lynchburg, Virginia. So, Orioles are the only one that have all 4 just like bam, 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 right in the same region, along the parent club. So the schedules align, you could see every team in the system and the Orioles themselves in a span of 5 days. I mean, less than that if you get some day-night doubleheaders going.
Not to get 2025 planning going already, but I feel like we should do that one of these years.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great one. Like, just see every team in a system. I mean, Baltimore would be the one you choose to do that, to make it all driving and to be done over the course of not much more than a long weekend.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's the Chesapeake Bay Sox will be coming in 2025. What else is coming next season?
Well, then we have the Salt Lake Bees moving into new ballpark, Daybreak Field. I don't think it's technically in Salt Lake City anymore. I think it's in a place called Jordan, but it's very much the Salt Lake City region. But the Bees have refreshed their look in advance of this move to the new ballpark. They had played at Smith's Ballpark in downtown Salt Lake. So they're moving away from that, but moving to a new ballpark, keeping the same name, keeping the same basic look, but they've just refreshed and tweaked. And I think it's a pretty sharp look, and it's got a lot of Easter eggs within it, with ties to team history and ties to the parent club and things of that nature. The primary logo is Bumble, their mascot, featured in a roundel logo. They have new script, new ligature being, like the SL, interlocking SL.
If you're listening at home and you can use ligature in a sentence this week, please let us know.
Yeah.
Like
That's
how you fit that into your Thanksgiving conversation. I want to know.
Me too. I feel like I should have used that word more through the years, writing about logos all the time. Yeah, there's one of the logos is this an outline of the state of Utah with the word bees running diagonally through it. And that is actually modeled after a California Angels logo from the 80s, that had the state of California with angels running down diagonally through it. So that's like a distinct homage to the parent club in a previous era of their history. And there's a logo that has a bee, the flat bee logo. It's like if you're looking straight down at this bee, and its body is comprised of a beehive and a baseball. And that is modeled after the original bees logo from the 1915 to 1925 era of the bees. And that's the thing with Salt Lake and the bees. And Utah is the beehive state. Salt Lake City is the biggest city in the state. The bees name goes all the way back to 1915 with a team in the Pacific Coast League, the same league that the bees play in today. They haven't had a team consecutively since 1915 in Salt Lake, but the bees name in Salt Lake in minor league baseball in the Pacific Coast League goes back 109 years at this point. So the team, I think, ultimately just thought there was too much, well, the word they used, equity built up in the bees name to change it. Because I think anytime you're moving the new ballpark and you're changing logos, you're like, well, we could just have a whole new name. But I think ultimately it was just like there's just too much association with this name. This iteration of the bees has been around since 1994, although they had two names that weren't the bees but were bees related. They were the Buzz and the Stingers before becoming the bees in 2006. So they were bee adjacent for a little while before going back to the bees name in 2006. Referencing an era of baseball history that again goes back well over 100 years.
Yeah, and the Buzz, I think that had tie into the Jazz, right? You wanted two teams in the same area with Z's at the end.
Oh, right. I've forgotten about that.
I think it was like a dual meaning there. I got to say, I like this a lot. I mean, it does feel very classic and throwback, but also a little bit modern. But this Utah itself logo, the homage, like you said, to the California Angels logo of old, I haven't seen this on a hat yet or a piece of apparel. Salt Lake, if you're listening, please put that out there. Like I would buy the t-shirt that just has the state outline with bees across it. It looks like it's designed for a patch of some sort, or put it on a hat. Either one of those. I vacationed in Utah last year, had a great time there. Really enjoyed just the national parks of the area, going to a Utah Utes game. There's a lot of pride in Utah as a state. And I think they have a real opportunity. Part of this is just the shape of the state, right? It's very blocky and Western in that way, but there's a real opportunity to do something special with that. So slap that on some apparel and you'll get an order from a certain Dykstra in Brooklyn.
A certain Dykstra. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it works. A Utah specific logo works for the bees, probably a little bit more than the logo that it's modeled after, the Angels logo encompassing the whole state of California, because it's like, really, Angels? You're the fifth. You were right. Major League Baseball team number 5 in California, playing essentially in Los Angeles, where there's already the Dodgers. You just called themselves the California Angels and had a logo in which your name is encompassing the entire
state.
Claim
the entire thing.
Claim the entire state. I feel like the bees have a better claim to all of Utah, being in Salt Lake City, the biggest city, and also the only minor league team right now in all of Utah. Although shout out to the Pioneer League teams that are still there in different forms. But no, the Orem Owls don't exist at all anymore.
Right.
But Utah had the Orem Owls, and Ogden. That was in Utah, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Ogden Raptors still holding it down in the now independent Pioneer League, with also a view of the Wasatch Mountain Range, which Smith's Ballpark, the Bees' old home, had such a great mountain view. But hoping for some good mountain views at this new ballpark. There's going to be some mountain views. I don't think they'll be quite as spectacular as they were at Smith's Ballpark.
If you want to hear more about what this new ballpark is going to be, we had a conversation a few weeks back with Tony Parks, the Salt Lake broadcaster, about what it's like to go through this offseason of change and closing down Smith's Ballpark and getting ready and getting excited for the new one. That was episode 476. So go back and listen to that one if you have more interest in Bees baseball and all that's coming in 2025. Anything else in Logovember that we missed?
Those are the three big ones. We've had some alternate identities we can hit on real quick. A couple weeks ago, the Hudson Valley Renegades kind of expanding on their cider donuts alternate identity. They offered up the Big Apples, which is a dual reference to the fact that they are a New York State based team, that the Yankees are their affiliate, New York City, of course, being the Big Apple, but also because Hudson Valley is home to a lot of apple orchards, and New York State is produces the second most apples of any state in the United States. Do you know what number one is?
Washington State?
You're correct, Sam. Can't put anything by you.
Look at that.
But the Big Apple's identity, celebrating New York City and apples themselves, is out from the Hudson Valley Renegades. And if you like cider donuts, that's a good one. And the Beloit Sky Carp, when they had their name the team, they used to be the Snappers. And when they had a name the team contest that resulted in them being named the Sky Carp, one of the finalists was Supper Clubbers, and they have unveiled a Supper Clubbers identity. Supper Club, I feel like I need to go to some Wisconsin supper clubs. I mean, they're restaurants. They're not actually clubs. You don't have to be a membership, but it's a Wisconsin Midwest restaurant of a specific type. Say like rustic decor. Seem pretty big on the booze. Friday fish fries. But in terms of the drinking the alcohol, old fashions are a big one at the supper clubs. So the Supper Clubber logo is an anthropomorphic old fashioned cocktail. And
which I feel like is just going to do gangbusters across the country. Like, if they're called the Supper Clubbers, so if you're from Wisconsin, you're going to know what this is going after. Apparently, the brandy old fashioned is the official cocktail of Wisconsin, so there's some local pride there. But if you just like drinking old fashions and you like baseball, here's an old fashioned holding a baseball with like under in a very fancy way, using a baseball as a cane. Like, I feel like this is going to catch on no matter where you're from.
Yeah. If you like cocktails, you like baseball, Lloyd has a logo for you. And they're going to play as the Supper Clubbers every Friday home game, on Fridays because of, Friday fish fries being a big part of the Supper Clubber menu or routines. They definitely fill up on weekends, especially on Fridays. Get an old fashioned, get some fish fry. They have was it olive trays? I think is a big thing at supper clubs. Just like big like olive, cheese, and cracker, just kind of pre-meal spreads. Like I feel like we should all go to it.
Yeah, maybe we have to do a podcast from a supper club next year.
I would like to.
Yeah,
I would definitely like to
get the atmosphere really involved in the show. Wisconsin, if you want to invite us out there to do that, we are available and willing to do that in 2025. Maybe we'll cap ourselves at 3 old fashions each for the good of the show.
Yeah, but also that's the minimum too.
That's also, yeah, it has to be 3.
Yeah, 3.
No more,
no less.
All right, that's the show before the show promise. So it's been a busy Logovember. That's, we think, catching you up on everything that's new for 2025 and 2026. If anything else springs up before the holiday season or at any point in the off season, because you never know, new identities could come as alternates for promo season and promo reveals and all that jazz.
We'll be seeing a lot more alternate identities.
This is not the end of it by any means.
And at least one more refresh. I don't think we have any full rebrands or anything, but at least one more pre-existing team refresh. Definitely a bunch more alternate identities. We will deal with it as it comes.
All right. Well, it is Thanksgiving week, Ben, and I feel like we've done this on the show before when we've typically done these kind of shorter little Thanksgiving week episodes. But when you look back at 2024 as a year or at the season specifically, what do you feel like you're most thankful for this year?
Well, it's corny, but first and foremost that I'm still able to do it. I can still, just with both my employment situation and health and everything else, can still get out on the road. I'm talking like I'm like 85 years old. I'm not that old, but you don't take anything for granted. Just love that I'm still able to get out there and, now having a family has made it more difficult to do the travel. So I'm just glad I'm still out there. I was thankful this year that, as we explore different types of ways to present, this kind of material, paired up with LCCs on multiple occasions, live content creators, Justine Willard in San Jose, Vin Mazzoni in Stockton and Sacramento, Catherine Skean in Rome, Memphis, Burlington, North Carolina, and Winston-Salem, Grace Hoppel in Lansing. It was nice having a lot of these road stops be with somebody else and have better photos, have videos, have stuff that we can create recap videos with. And I think we'll be going in that direction, more and more in terms of how to present that kind of material. So it was nice to have I don't want to say a test run this year, because it wasn't just theoretical. We did it, but I think that will grow. And looking forward to seeing how things evolve. And also just thankful. I think the newsletter is my favorite thing to do in this job right now, outside of course this podcast, which is always number one. It's now the Baseball Traveler newsletter. I think that rebrand has happened since
that is a rebrand.
podcast,
Yeah, that is true.
But I love the readership of the newsletter. The Ben's Biz Beat is now the Baseball Traveler. But in the Baseball Traveler, you will find the Ben's Biz Beat. That's what I cover, the business and culture of minor league baseball. So subscribe to the Baseball Traveler newsletter. Rather than give you a URL right now, just Google Ben's Biz Beat, Baseball Traveler, or Benjamin Hill, Baseball Traveler, or any combination newsletter. Just subscribe if you don't already. And I got good stuff all year round.
Yeah.
And still sharing a lot of great road trip stories. We've talked enough. I won't get into the specifics of those stories, but still have had some recent stories from Winston-Salem, from Lansing. It's coming out this week. And I think I'll reach back into my bag, do some stuff from Rocket City, aka Madison, Alabama, aka right out of Huntsville, and so on and so forth. There's just so much material, and I love bringing it to the people.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think what I'm most thankful for this year is just, I say this a lot. It's the surprises, right? It's like the guys who really stood out, covering prospects who you didn't expect to take off like they did. Somebody like a Christian Campbell of the Boston Red Sox. You can invest so much time in studying these guys, and they can still surprise you. And that's what keeps baseball on all of our toes. If it was a very predictable sport, then it would not be nearly as fun as it is. You can't predict ball, Susan. So the fact that there are still guys out there surprising us, as much data as there is out there, you can still change your game and improve. There's a lesson in that for all of us, and I appreciate that. I think the thing I'm most thankful that I got to cover this year was the Rickwood Field game, the minor league game down in Birmingham, Alabama. If you haven't heard that story, go check it out. Kelsey Hennigan and I took a road trip from Daytona Beach, Florida, up through Florida into Mississippi, then to Alabama. No, I guess we didn't hit Mississippi, but we went from Florida to Alabama, just stopping in cities and learning about the history of Black baseball in a lot of those towns, talking to people at Jackie Robinson Ballpark in Daytona Beach, or going to Mobile, Alabama, and talking to Cleon Jones, who was a Mets outfielder, helped them win a World Series, got the final out of a World Series, and talk about how he's trying to honor the history of Mobile baseball. So much of that Rickwood Field game was about honoring the history of Birmingham specifically, and how Rickwood Field used to host not only the Birmingham Barons, which was a traditionally white team going decades back, but also the Birmingham Black Barons, and how that's where Willie Mays got his professional start, essentially, playing in the Negro Leagues before getting signed by the Giants, and how his big dream was to play at Rickwood. I mean, that's what everybody in the area wanted to do. And then to be at that game when we all found out that Willie Mays had passed away, and just to see the reaction from the crowd, and everybody was sad, but everybody was also appreciative of Willie Mays because they knew how old he was and what it meant to be in that place. And instead of it be a moment of silence, it went to a moment of applause, and have that happen so viscerally and so on the spot. was incredible and one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in baseball. It wasn't something that happened on the field specifically. It was in the crowd, and getting to talk to somebody like Chandler Simpson, a Rays prospect who was playing for Montgomery in that game. And his father, I think both of his parents are educators. So he'd always been taught about the history of Negro Leagues baseball and where people like him learned the game and how they learned the game. And then for him to take off like he did in that game and then, share in that moment with everybody. I'll be thinking about that Rick Woodfield game for a very, very long time. I don't have it with me now, but I wore it into the office today. I still have my hat from that game that I bought there because that's just every time I wear it, it reminds me of that atmosphere and how special a place Rick Woodfield is. And the Rickwood game is coming back for 2025, we should say,
right,
as a minor league game. Birmingham will again be hosting. I think it's this time Rocket City.
It is the Rocket City Trash Pan, an Alabama,
another Alabama-based team. Yeah, so that'll be really cool to see that come back. I mean, the Rickwood Classic was a thing that was played by the Birmingham Barons for a very long time until the pandemic put a stop on that. Now, the field has gone through so many upgrades to be able to host the major league game this year, and then thankfully that's being carried forward into minor league games next year. Hopefully major league games will return again beyond just this one in 2024. But the fact that the Rickwood Classic itself is back in 2025 is amazing. And if you have a chance to go, whether you live in Alabama, live in a Southern League locale somehow, or just are looking for a baseball road trip, I can't recommend it highly enough. It's a really, really special place. All the more special with all the improvements that have happened now and how they've, honored history and pushed it forward into the present time. So I think that's going to be it for me, right? I'm sure we're going to come up with more. I mean, we've done this in the past too, where our final episode of the year is to recap everything that happened we did and our favorite memories, but
make some resolutions that we may or may not stick to.
Yeah. I'm up to 41 movies, by the way. That was one of my resolutions last year. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I said I was going to watch 50 movies that came out in 2024. I'm up to 41 with a few weeks left, so feeling comfortable about beating that. But yeah, we will be back next week. I don't know if we're going to do a dude right now. I feel like we should have the whole team back together.
Yeah.
To name that dude. If you have somebody you want to name that dude, maybe message us individually so the other ones can't see it.
Yeah, choose one of us.
Choose one of us to message
and say, "Hey, when you do name that dude,
here's a
dude.
Make
it this dude."
Yeah, and we will give you a shout out on the pod if there's some dude you want us to highlight. But I've made the move over to Blue Sky. I'm still on Twitter at Sam Dykstra MiLB, but I'm also on Blue Sky at Sam Dykstra MiLB. I'm doing more posting over there these days. I'm still sharing my links on Twitter. Ben, you're on Instagram at the Ben's Biz. You're on Twitter at Ben's Biz.
Yep, I haven't made the move to Blue Sky yet, but I might.
Maybe by next week we'll make that happen. Tyler is on Blue Sky. Tyler Mon, find him there as well. He's got, like I said at the start of the show, a bunch of his clips from Premier 12. But that's gonna do it for this week's episode of the show before the show. No matter where you are in the country, in the world, if you're in the United States of America, have a happy, healthy, and bountiful Thanksgiving this Thursday. If you're listening anywhere else, just have a good rest of your week. We'll be back next week to talk about any other news that comes up in the minor leagues. We'll preview some of the Rule 5 draft and the winter meetings that are coming down the pike in Texas. Lots more baseball to come. But for now, thanks for listening.